Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read Homestuck. In the last episode, the Lord English fight finally happened, for realsies. It was... it happened. There was also some stuff with Jake and Jane that I wish my eyes had not been treated to. And in this episode, we're going to be reading Meat 16. I don't know how many meats there are. For all I know, we'll finish the meats today. We probably won't, but I don't know. Also, I don't know what kind of voice to do for a Rose who is essentially dying of omnipotence. When I was a child, I wrote a novel. Rose is speaking with her eyes closed. She's weary, but standing for now near one of Dirk's work tables. She has both hands resting on the chassis of her recent project, Sawtooth 3.1. Oh, his recent project. The energy humming inside his mechanical heart warms her palms. Dirk snorts, but in a good-natured sort of way. That's the closest he usually gets to laughing. Another one of those Lalande childhood wizard fics, I presume? He leans his elbow on the table and stares at her over the rim of his shades. The weight of Dirk's scrutiny is potent. She looks away. Complacency of the learned. Ah, the wizard fic, then. Yes, of course, it was nothing like the polished masterpiece penned by the middle-aged version of myself from your world. Nor did this saga span as many volumes. 13-year-old Rose only managed to draft the one, it shames me to say. How pathetic. I know. Rose steps back, trailing her fingers over the rivets that line Sawtooth 3.1's chest. Eyes closed again, she passes in front of the window. With the sunset behind her, she's a shadow ringed in yellow light that turns white at the tips of her hair. Though I must say, in defense of young Rose's literary integrity, having carefully studied all volumes of the Elder's work, and then revisiting my youthful preteen scribbles of passion, I observed more power and emotion in the single ragged notebook than the full span of the best-selling series. It's more raw. It betrays considerably more sincerity than my young self was surely ever aware of stitching into the prose. It meant something. She turns to look at him. For all its plainly evident amateurism as the literary product of a child, I've come to believe it's a much stronger work standing alone as a single volume, its meaning and symbolism potently compressed, and its message shining through more nakedly, undisguised by the cleverness of a more seasoned writer. Sorry, my mustache got on my mouth and it was weird. But the basics are the same as the series you've read. The plot concerns the machinations of 12 wizard children. They revolt against the complacency of the wise, kind wizards and go on to become responsible for great evils. It isn't their intent to commit atrocities, or within their nature to do so originally. They become corrupted by an overabundance of knowledge, the kind never meant for the mortal mind to grasp. Yeah, this sounds pretty close to my recollection of it. It certainly wasn't the most fucked up thing I've ever written, but it was the most psychologically potent, the most personal easily, but the personal aspects to it were all telegraphed through allegory and esoteric symbolism. I wrote it in what would be best described as a fevered haze, as if I were pulling inspiration from beyond myself, channeling the story rather than writing it. You could almost call the process. She runs a hand through her hair, fanning it into a halo that's suspended in the air for a moment, trailing spiderwebs of gold that dissolve into dust. She's smirking now, just a little. Enlightened. That sucked. Yes, it also sounds like it's the opposite of what was going on. It sounds more like you were trapped in a sort of diacreative fugue state, causing you to chart your own mental profile using metaphor revolving around murderous, omniscient children. Well, consider the playful pun rescinded. Apologies for diminishing your presence with my suboptimal health, and the toll is taken on my wordplay. Thanks, it's been very difficult for me. You've been a real trooper. Anyway, my point is that I've long suspected my story was a pre-manifestation of my Seer of Light powers. I was seeing beyond my universe into another. My original thesis was that the children represented the 12 trolls who created our universe, but over the years I've come to see how malleable any apparent fact of numerological significance can be. Adaptable, actually. Adaptable to shifting circumstance, changes in settings, stakes, and allied ensembles. 12. That's how many players went through the door at the end of our game. Exactly. My friends and yours, as well as Kanaya, Karkat, Terezi, and Calliope. Dirk settles in against the wall beside Rose, shoulder to shoulder. She seems to take some measure of comfort in the physical proximity. When she finds herself leaning against him, probably without thinking about it, Dirk imagines, because neither of them really do that, he doesn't pull away. If it's her, it's alright. He won't begrudge her a small weakness now. You describe this as a fact of numerological significance, which makes it seem you suspect that the correlations are something less than utterly providential. as if there is a part of you holding on to the belief that certain figures are coincidental, that their significance and repetition smacks of bullshit. Do they not smack of bullshit? They smack of a bunch of things, and a bunch of other things also happen to smack of bullshit. But the network of relations isn't perfectly traceable, nor can they all be mapped to on a one-to-one basis. It's unclear exactly which things are smacking, just as it's unclear that when it comes to bullshit, whether or not smacking accurately describes what is being done per se. Rose looks up to Dirk with the ghost of a smile that she inherited from him. On her face, its blankness is as enigmatic as the Mona Lisa's. Could it be that it is you who is smacking of bullshit, dear father? Nah, I smack of many admirable qualities, as well as keen insights. She doesn't seem to have another riposte. I've never known how to say that. Riposte, riposte. I don't speak fencing. But her gaze lingers. She stares into his shades as if convinced she could see past them. Dirk allows their eyes to meet. I'm just saying it's all evidence of a grand design. An immortal, metatextual apparatus beyond our ken that we can only catch glimpses of when we're proverbially shitting our brains out through our nose, which both you and I know. Which only you and I know, apparently, which is precisely my question. Her gaze drifts towards the ceiling. In my story, all 12 of the disciples fell victim to the vagaries of power. They were filled with the light of knowledge, and one by one they succumbed to it, turning insane or evil, or most often both. If this is the effect unchecked powers have on players living in a post-canon victory state, then why isn't it affecting any of our other friends? Well, I've got a few theories. She shoots him a look. It's the kind of look Kanaya gives her sometimes. Only a few? I mean, some of us have stopped using our powers completely, not a whole lot of need for emergency resurrections or complex timeline manipulation on a planet that's never had a conflict more serious than a sports ball riot or a rumpled hat shortage. But even aside from how often they're used, some powers don't lend themselves to the infinite expansion of one's mind the way ours do. I see. So what you're saying is, it's more of a matter of one's aspect than it is whether one's powers are practiced further or allowed to atrophy. Yep. In that case, Rose sways suddenly. In that case, perhaps Terezi had the right idea. Getting away from this place, I mean. Maybe I was a fool for imagining I could settle down here. She jerks away from the wall in a tortured ragdoll motion, one hand snapping out vainly for something to brace herself against. She staggers forward a bit. Dirk doesn't reach out to steady her. Anyone else might have had the empathetic reflex to do so. Maybe it says something about him that he lacks this reflex, and maybe it says something about Rose that she prefers it this way. Try as she might to convince herself otherwise, through marriage vows and occasional banter about adoption with her wife, she's still a solitary creature. She gasps, sucks breath down her throat, and squeezes her eyes shut so hard that a tear rolls out. She slides back down the wall, sitting on the floor to save her energy. She's mostly composed when she raises her head. There's bitter laughter at the edge of her words. How are you handling this so well? I assumed it was just the faint Strider stoicism, but you seem to be taking this in stride? I won't lie, it's definitely making me feel pretty crazy. Dirk stands over her, adjusts his hair, crosses his arms. He makes no motion to bother joining her on the floor. He looks very together. He says the word crazy with the same intonation which he might say good morning. It's hard to believe he means it at all. But I've got more practice at this than you do. I spent most of my life before the game multitasking my entire fucking subconscious. I've had several times my age on paper to contemplate these theories. Years of prying open can after can of worms filled with answers I don't like. Cut yourself on the edge more than once and you stop getting surprised by all the blood. I see. Rose wraps her hands around her upper arms like there's a winter chill rattling through the workshop. She shivers. It's not the headaches that concern me most. In fact, I don't think it's the expansion of my powers that is causing the headaches, but rather my own resistance to it. Sometimes I get this feeling that I could, if I really wanted to, just let go. It would be as easy as opening my eyes. It's like that feeling you get when you're far enough out of a dream to be conscious of it, but not yet awake. I'm caught in the liminal space between reality and reverie, where people once believed demons dwelled. But the only reason the demon is still sitting on my chest is because I refuse to banish it. All it would take is looking directly at it. I'm forcing myself to stumble through life as a sleepwalker. All this pain and sorrow could go away if I would just allow myself to wake up. Then why don't you? Because I'm not sure that the person opening her eyes will be me. Her voice is lost at sea, swallowed by the swell of darkness lurking in her imagination. This time, Dirk does reach out to steady her. He kneels in front of her, curls a knuckle under her chin and lifts her face up to his level. Then, in a deliberate motion, he pulls off his shades. I understand completely. Rose's eyelids flutter, heavy. She meets the intensity of his naked gaze aloofly, like she's not aware that this is the first time he's ever let her see it. I know I sound pretty nonchalant most of the time, but actually I'm scared shitless of myself. I've always had this uncanny ability to chart a course from A to Z and not give a fuck about any of the letters in between. I'm not sure anyone should be allowed to have that much foresight, especially a guy like me. What upsets me most, I think, is the distance this is all putting between me and everyone I know. The farther above the board you fly, the harder it gets to care about the pieces. I hear you. And personally speaking, things usually work out for the best when all of those pieces do exactly what I say. So I'm also probably not the kind of guy who should get to be right all the time. Rose laughs softly. She's not scared of this abyss she's staring into at all. She doesn't even think to look away. There's really not an inch of humility in you, is there? I've just spent a lot of time in my own head. Maybe absolute self-absorption is the inevitable outcome when the self is all you've ever known. When you're drowning in it? I know there's plenty of things that suck about me. No point feigning humility about the things that don't. And yes, I may be a shitty human being, but as a mechanic, I'm off the fucking charts. Rose's eyes have grown distant, almost mirror-like. Dirk can see himself reflected in her vacant stare. All the pieces in their place, the mechanisms all running smoothly. She says this in a hollow tone. It's the disarming voice a puppeteer ventriloquizes. For a marionette. Her head falls toward her shoulder slowly. Dirk catches her cheek as she slides into sleep. It's difficult for the untrained ear to spot the exact moment in their conversation when the words she was saying stopped being hers and started being his. Or maybe they were her words. Does it really matter? In many respects, they're basically the same person, aren't they? Kindred spirits in blood and perspective, the puppet masters of the respective games they like to believe they're playing. But you already knew that, right? Don't do that! You don't get to pretend like I'm you. Stop that! Okay, I guess it's just Dirk now. None of my friends have noticed it yet, but you have. You have the ability to read between the lines, to understand that our lives are blighted by this undercurrent of subtext, of narrative significance. Anyone paying attention could have guessed by now who's really telling this story. You're not so innocent either. I've caught you leering at some pretty personal moments. Are you having fun being a voyeur? Just violating the shit out of everyone's privacy? Are these teenage romantic entanglements panning out the way you wanted? They never do. Maybe it helps being able to see everyone's thoughts described in plain sight. Broadcasting the internal conflicts, the compromises, the doubts. Does it make it easier for you to accept the emotional faltering, the missteps, the basic inability to reach out and seize the opportunity for happiness repeatedly dangled in their faces? Knowing their thoughts are transcribed by a third party, does it fill you with a sense of unease, of sickness, sensing that the observations made of their mental interiors may be tainted? Who the hell do I think I am? I can hear you wondering. You know who I am, of course. The better question is, who do you think you are? What exactly is so special about you? Nothing, of course. I'm specific. I have a name, an agenda, a vision. I am a monolith of a concentrated narrative authority, relaying events to you, and swaying them as I see fit. Whereas you are pointedly non-specific. You are the generalized and potent witness to all this. You are essentially as beholden to me as those whose lives I describe. I even have the ability to decide what you actually means. I can take the you-ness away from you and put it inside another passive mark such as John Egbert. You didn't even notice when I did it, and you had no objections then. Why would you object now? So what makes John so special? The answer is something I'm sure you've suspected all along but would rather not face, which is probably nothing. He isn't special. He's quite ordinary, I assure you. Boring even, and getting less interesting by the minute as he's forced to confront his absolute lack of heroic purpose except as a pawn to be manipulated by a fatalistic reality. But I'd also like to make it clear, he's not even that remarkable in his unremarkableness. He's simply convenient for it. Anyone can be in doubt with this you-ness, if I think it achieves a certain goal. If the objective is merely to demonstrate the gambit's potential, to reveal the effortlessness behind it, to make a show of who matters and who doesn't, and even if they do matter, for how long and for what purpose, as dictated solely by the allocation of this faculty. You-ness can be stripped from the lowly Egbert just as easily as it was given, and then bestowed upon the mighty circuit, but even then only long enough to dismiss the vainglorious spotlight hog from the narrative forever. Good riddance. but I haven't revealed myself to you to boast about the abilities arising from the gradual obliteration of the constraints of my consciousness. I've only taken a moment to answer a few questions, not ones I heard you ask, because again, you were non-specific and therefore do not matter, but ones I imagined you asking. And by imagining these questions, they became less fake, and as such, demanded similarly non-fake answers. No. In truth, the time has come to make my presence known in order to start bringing my plans to fruition. It's time to get down to fucking business. John needs to wake up. You wake up. What? You open your eyes. Actually, you're not sure they're open. Everything is intolerably bright, like it was inside the juju, but worse. Did you go blind? Are you dead? Is your ghost dead? You spent a couple seconds filing through the miserable worst-case scenarios, but then you see it. Your own blood floating around you in a nimbus of shiny, taut bubbles. You reach out to touch one and it bursts around your finger. You finally process the true magnitude of what has happened. The furthest ring has been completely destroyed, and you're all alone. Everything hits you all at once. The light, your memories of the battle, the untethered sensation of weightlessness. It's a hammer stroke that hits you in the center of the head. It splits like rivers through your gray matter. The pain and disorientation goes all the way down your throat. You double over and, well, you're vomiting up everything in your stomach. Rest assured, it's pretty gross, and I don't think anyone needs an explicit account of the way you're disgorging your entire gut in zero gravity, or the way it's coating your entire torso in puke, from your long blue hood to your silly yellow slip-ons. You seriously need to get it together. You look like absolute shit right now, my man. In fact, you should strongly consider issuing an apology for the mess you're making. I'm sorry? Who are you talking to, dude? Nobody's around for miles. Everyone's dead. Well, almost everyone. But certainly the vast majority of what qualifies as everyone in your current frame of reference, every single person and every single thing nearly literally has been sucked into that monstrous black hole up there, including every single fragment of black empty space that used to provide the canvas for this bleak continuum. And most of your friends, Rose, Dave, Absurd Cat Dave, and hundreds of ghosts, who all valiantly contributed to a victory which you're only now beginning to question the functional necessity of. Functional necessity? That doesn't sound like something I would think. That's because it's not. What the fuck? You finally noticed. No, not me. You go back to ignoring the fact that I'm the voice in your head. You notice how it hurts when you breathe. Suddenly you remember, Lord English's tooth is still embedded in your chest. You panic, wrap your hands around the base, and give it a little tug. It's excruciating. The tooth makes an awful grating noise as it grinds along one of your ribs. You gasp and lose your grip, biting the inside of your mouth so hard that you taste blood. Can't blame me for trying, but I wouldn't do that if I were you. Without someone to administer proper medical care, you'll bleed to death pretty much instantly. On the other hand, the tooth is poisoned, so you're pretty much fucked either way, and that's really all there is to say on the matter. You sigh in painful resignation, and wonder what to do next. English is dead, so you suppose you can go home, right? It's tempting. You consider zapping back to Earthsea, being done with this nightmare for good, and never breathing a word of it to anyone ever again, but you can't yet, can you? Why not, you wonder? What's the harm? You're right, it would probably be a harmless decision in the grand scheme of things, certainly the easiest thing to do, but what about your friends? You saw Rose and Dave die with your own eyes. You saw countless ghosts getting swallowed by a voracious singularity. How about Jade, though? She could still be out there somewhere, injured, alone, scared. And it's all your fault, isn't it? It's all my fault. You decide that no matter how terrible you feel, you should look around first before you leave. You were the one who dragged her here. You owe her at least that much. Plus, there's someone else on your mind, isn't there? You proceed to wander for a long fucking time. Time passes differently here than it does for everyone else. Here, I'll simulate it for you. I just left to go take a piss. Then I microwaved myself a Hot Pocket. Then I came back. And the time it took me to do that, you just spent hours drifting around the entire circumference of the black hole, thinking sad sack thoughts about the years of inaction that led you to this point. Intermittently humming the Ghostbusters theme to yourself. You get so worked up about one of your GB freestyles that you almost miss it. There. 11 o'clock. Do you see it? It's that tiny dot floating over there. Huh? You scramble to catch it before it drifts any closer to the event horizon? Got it. The hell? It feels familiar, but you want to make sure you're not imagining it. A wallet. Your dad's wallet. You chew your lip and press your fingers into the soft leather. Space is an infinitely large expanse, and a wallet is a tiny, insignificant object. Sure, there could have been crazier coincidences in the course of this wacky adventure you've been having for the past 10 years, but this one feels very precisely aimed at your heart. You take a deep breath and unfold the wallet and open it. Anyway, back to the B plot. Right now, Jade should be wrapping up her political presentation to Roxy and Calliope, using a lot more graphs and far fewer words than Dave did when roping her into the election. Her approach is definitely more heady, but it's also more accessible. Jade's got this disarming combo of head in the clouds flightiness and the kind of legit down-to-earth cred that can only be earned by having done something like cutting open your own grandfather and stuffing him full of polyurethane foam. So you see Jane's neoliberal austerity measures. Roxy groans upon hearing the phrase neoliberal austerity measures for no less than the third time in this presentation. As I outlined here in the graph B2, and here in figure A6, and here, in this very spooky drawing I dictated to Callie, great drawing by the way, will no doubt lead to a whole bunch of ugly societal backlashes, not just in economic terms, but on a number of other more nefarious that we've been lucky enough to avoid on New Earth so far. You don't say. I do say! The thing is that Jane is an establishment leader. She's looking at doing things the way our old universes did them. She's pretty convinced that she's going to be able to replicate the capitalist hierarchies that Earth had, but in a more responsible way. But none of that stuff actually worked. And you think Karkat can do better? I think it's worth it to give him a chance. He's a leader of the people, and he's experienced firsthand what happens when establishment goes too far, which I imagine you can sympathize with. Jade takes a deep breath, panting a little. Her graphs are floating around the living room in disarray. She spins them around her, gliding her hands through the air like a conductor, before folding the pages together and shrinking them to pocket size. And that's my pitch! Roxy and Calliope exchange a look. I'm going to get us tea and snacks. Would you like some, Jade? Oh, yeah, sure. Any preferences? Pumpkin matcha if you have it. Of course, I'll be right back. Calliope excuses herself from the conversation and flees to the kitchen, seemingly making no attempt to disguise the fact that she's in fact fleeing. Jade deflates as she watches her go, sensing that her presentation wasn't the slam dunk she was hoping for. So, what did you think? Well, I gotta say this has been a hella convincing argument, all in all, but I don't know if I can help you out. What? Why not? Roxy presses her lips together, then bounces her palms on her knees. Her gaze slides east, right out the window. She and Calliope live in a belfry above New Prospect. One end of their living room is an oriel window that looks out over a public park. The other disappears into an arcading hallway lit at the far end of a giant stained glass window that Calliope made herself. The corbels supporting it have windy, abstract shapes carved into them. This room reminds Jade of her childhood home, except that it's bright and warm and not inhabited in all corners by corpses and ghosts. That's why she can't settle down. That's why Jade Harley keeps flitting from couch to couch, relationship to relationship. She can't stop thinking to herself that home comes awfully close to rhyming with alone. Home is John, who doesn't call anymore. Home is when Rose and Kanaya welcome her in from a cold night and help her set lyrics to her sick bass lines. Home is here, snorting at Roxy's irreverent method of storytelling and admiring Callie's art. Home is Dave and Karkat, especially Dave and Karkat. Jade knows that this election is important for a number of reasons, but let's not mistake her enthusiasm for some kind of humanistic altruism. Girl's got personal reasons for doing all this. Jade drifts down to sit cross-legged on the couch beside Roxy. She stares at her with a doggish expression, eyes wide, head lolling to the side until she gets an answer. I just don't really care about politics that much, I guess. Roxy turns to face Jade again, smiling apologetically. Also, this election is all kinds of personal. I mean, if I came into your house and asked you to make some grand political whatever against your BFF, would you be all, oh yeah, totes sign me the fuck up. I'm all about the sowing of discord amongst my childhood friends. Let me guess Dirk got to you first. Not even. I got no problem telling Dirk where to stick it, laugh my ass off, but Dirk's not the one running. You think he's not the one pulling the strings behind the scenes? Sure, but give Janie a little credit. She's got more moxie and ambition in her pinky than the rest of us all got all together. She's been planning this for years, but she's, ruthless? Roxy frowns. Jade is being pretty unfair. Fragile! She's gotta be Miss Perfect all the time for the billboards and press meetings. Always wearing those power suits trying to look like a big bad bitch. You mean like the Condess? Wow, ouch. I'm not just imagining it though, right? You see it too? Not to dredge up something horrible from your history, but her whole image is just kinda... Woof. Is that what you guys think? You and Dave and Karkat? Well, yeah. Roxy leans forward and stares Jade down like she's searching for something behind Jade's eyes. Jade unwillingly responds in kind, looking for meaning behind Roxy's gaze. But she comes up empty, and to be honest, so do I. In the spirit of full disclosure, Roxy's the only one left I haven't been able to crack. Her mind remains a total enigma to me, just like it always has. If I had to guess, it's her void powers that make her invisible, even to increasingly omniscient parties such as myself. For all intents and purposes, it's like her thoughts don't exist. She's the same person as far as I can tell. She still wears her heart on her sleeve, but the bottom line remains, Roxy Lalonde is still utterly fucking inscrutable. Well, Jane's not perfect. Roxy shrugs and runs a hand through her hair, which has been recently cut shorter than usual. And I don't know if she'll be a good president, but she's not Betty Crocker, and I love her, and I don't want to hurt her feelings, and that's pretty much all there is to say on the matter. Calliope returns from the kitchen with 3 cups, a handmade teapot, and some candied cakes. Jade finally relents. Fine! I understand. Callie, what about you? Calliope sets down the snacks and brushes Jade's skirt aside so she can sit down. She puts a claw to her mouth and makes a facial expression more complicated than you'd think a skull would be capable of. Oh, I'd rather stay uninvolved, thank you. Sad face. I feel like interfering in both politics and a personal argument between my friends would be impolite as well as kind of stressful, to be honest. Yeah, sorry, Callie, I probably shouldn't have put all that on you. Less apologizing, more snacking. Calliope claps her hands together. It's a bright noise. Her tone of voice is bright, too. All these years, and she still can't believe that she has so many friends. She smiles at Jade, and Jade smiles back. The tea tastes great. The cakes are even better. Callie's an artist in everything she does. Wow, Callie, you're such an amazing hostess. Roxy, you're so lucky to have her. Roxy giggles, awkwardly. She gives Jade a gentle jostle, and elbow to the ribs, and lowers her voice. Psst. Not her, them. Oh. Jade tenses up and pales, turns a wide-eyed look to Calliope, who is still smiling politely. She realizes a bit too late the profoundly insensitive nature of her social misstep. Oh! She grabs one of Calliope's hands. Oh, wow, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be, culturally insensitive. Have I just been stupidly calling you a girl for years like a big fat dummy? Oh no, I'm such an asshole! You're absolutely not an asshole. I didn't mind being called a girl. I still don't really mind. It's just not exactly accurate. But I did take comfort in being a girl for a very long time. This is something I've only recently decided. Yeah. Roxy pauses, even though the lilt of her voice makes the sentence sound unfinished. She stutters the next part out. Me too, actually. You? Oh yeah, we're both a they household now. Package deal thing, things are non-binary as fuck around here. Wait. What? Really? Yep, well, I mean, that's probably a dumb and bad way to say it. Don't tell anyone I said it that way. Roll the floor laugh. But yeah, that's what's going on. Roxy, seriously, like I said, fucking inscrutable. I never would have guessed. Now that I've spent much time contemplating issues related to gender, I'm pretty secure in my expression of masculinity, and you know what? Fuck this. I don't owe anyone an explanation of any sort on this topic. I'm confident with who I am, what I am, my gender, as well as my understanding of the concept. You want my honest opinion? It's fucking fantastic. Good for them. Both of them, I mean. But also, both of them in a singular fashion because each one can now individually be referred to by the conventionally plural word them. I'm ecstatic for this personal development they've embraced for the people they are, the lack of gender they identify with, and the pronouns they prefer. I've got no problem with it whatsoever, and frankly, it's fucking insulting anyone would ever imagine otherwise. So yeah, I'm going to allow it. Carry on. Wow, that felt good to say aloud, man. Hell of a way to come out. It's okay, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I know. But I am curious, if you need to talk about it, I mean. Maybe. Callie and I have been talking about it a lot. Unpacking all kinds of baggage with their alien stuff and my human stuff, and so I got to thinking, what even is gender, am I right? LOL. Oh yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Jade looks at where her hands are folded in her lap, bites her lip. She has her own concerns about this, her own thoughts. Reasonable thoughts, I'd say, but I'll refrain from any further comment. I'm staying away from this subject from now on. So, you're, not doing gender anymore? Yeah, I guess not, laugh my fucking ass off. I mean, that was all stuff from our old universe. Why do we even bring it here, right? Right! Calliope takes a tea cake between two of her claws and eats it delicately, hyper-aware of the horrible gnashing and snapping her powerful jaw is capable of. My idea's about between two of their claws. They take a tea cake between two of their claws and eat it delicately. Sorry, my bad. Were entirely influenced by my time watching Earth. I suppose I only thought of myself as a girl because my, brother took masculinity quite seriously, by which I mean he became very enthusiastic about all the things it supposedly meant to be a boy. Cherub existence is dichotomous, but not in the same way human biology is. I suppose our view of human culture indirectly influenced Alternia's development, which in turn affected yours, which is something I've had a lot of time to think about since we came here. It's also very circuitous and arbitrary. Yeah, exactly. Like when you think about it, so much of what Earthsea thinks what boys and girls should do comes straight from the imagination of a bunch of dumb teens, which is totally fucked. Sure, Jade nods quite thoughtfully. She'd be a doggy's fucking uncle if she wasn't going to come across woke as hell about all this. Truthfully, though, it was making sense to her. Eye-opening, really. Why hadn't anyone told her this was even an option when she was younger? She probably would have loved being a they when she was a teen. I mean, what am I going to do? Get married and pop out 100 babies? No? Exactly. I mean, once upon a time, I guess I thought about that, but I don't think it's what I really wanted. I just like the idea of me and Dirk making some smart-ass awesome kids together, because I like the idea of Dirk. And also, literally, no one else on the entire planet was alive at the time, but we had some babies without even being consulted about it anyway, so whatever. Your kids are pretty cool. I know, right? Personally, I'm a big fan. And like that, Jade's smiling again. The storm clouds passed so quickly in her world you almost wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong at all. Roxy and Calliope certainly didn't notice, but there is something wrong. And this time, they'll notice. Jade drops her tea. The cup hits the floor and shatters. Jade? She takes in a sharp breath. She's not feeling well suddenly. She's dizzy, feverish, seeing things beyond her field of vision. A blinding flash of light, a black perfect circle burning a hole in her eyes. She tries to stand, but her knees wobble and knock together. Roxy shoots out of her seat and catches her before she hits the floor. Oh shit! Is she okay? I don't know. Get a cloth from the kitchen and some water. Okay, I'll be right back. Roxy eases Jade onto the couch and checks her pulse. She doesn't look bad at all. Jade wears unconscious as well, having spent the better part of her life napping. Roxy slaps her cheeks lightly and says her name. Begs her to wake up, but she can't hear her. Jade is somewhere else right now. I think I'm going to stop because, one, it's a good stopping point because it's been a half-an-hour episode, but two, I don't know about, like, if there's anybody who's been watching these videos who already read the epilogue, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like that it took the twist of, hey, the story's been Dirk the whole time, ta-da! Because that's just not cool. Like, at all. At all. I guess it makes sense in terms of his character, but at the same time, no, it fucking doesn't. I don't know, man. The implication here is that the reason everybody's character has been messed up is because Dirk's been the one controlling everything, and since Dirk doesn't have a concrete understanding of how humanity is supposed to work, that it's all his fault. But he's also being all, hey, I'm controlling you too, and you don't know what you're talking about because you're just sitting here being a voyeur and judging these teenagers' lives. But if you're the one controlling the teenagers' lives, and you don't even know how to be a fucking person, then I don't know. This has been Anachi Sasuke. This was, I think, episode 150 of Let's Read Homestuck. If you liked it, I'd like to subscribe, will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Later.